The desert winds of Virex Prime howled like ghosts mourning a forgotten war. Beneath blood-red twin suns, the planet's surface shimmered with heat and decay. Sand swept across twisted wreckage, scattered hulls, broken weapons, the bones of a long-dead resistance. Once, this world had been the front line of humanity's final stand. Now it was just dust and echoes. Aboard the Vindicator, humanity's last warship, Captain Adrian Rivas watched the planet below. His face was lined with scars from another lifetime, one where Earth was already lost, and humanity clung to survival in the cold dark. But now, something had drawn them back. A signal, ancient, repeating. In Terran code, Adrian turned to his second-in-command, Mira. Same coordinates? She nodded, eyes sharp, buried deep. The signal is old, but still alive. Could be a trap. Adrian didn't flinch. We've come too far to ignore ghosts. The Vindicator descended through the atmosphere, its hull groaning against the planet's dying gravity. What they found was worse than silence. It was memory. Faded banners of the Terran Union flapped weakly over rusted outposts. Every ridge and crater told stories of resistance and annihilation. As the crew began their search, they stumbled upon signs of recent activity, boot prints in the sand, drag marks, and makeshift symbols scorched into rocks. Not human. That's when the ambush hit. From the dunes emerged a group of Katali survivors, an indigenous race once enslaved by the ancient warlord Threxel. Clad in scavenged armor and wielding plasma-forged spears, they surrounded Adrian's crew with discipline that spoke of decades surviving in hell. Their leader stepped forward, tall, lean, eyes glowing faintly. His voice was weary but strong. "You shouldn't have come." Adrian raised his hands. "We're not here to conquer. We came because something's still alive down there, something that speaks our language." The Katali leader studied him for a long moment, then spoke a name, Threxel. The crew exchanged glances. Mira muttered, "Didn't we kill him?" The Katali responded with a grim nod. "You ended the warlord's empire, but not his soul." Led by the Katali, Adrian and his team descended into the ruins of an old Terran bunker, a last holdout from the Extinction Wars. Inside, half buried beneath sand and collapsed stone, they found it, a Terran beacon, still pulsing, still broadcasting. And beside it, a horror. A body, Terran, or what had once been Terran, twisted and fused with alien machinery. Its eyes glowed gold. Its skin, cracked and scorched, stretched over bone and circuitry. Mira stepped back, revolted. "That's not ours. That's something else." Solstice, their onboard AI, confirmed it from orbit. Genetic match, human, but laced with Drosi override code and anomalous energy readings. It's been rebuilt, or resurrected. Adrian turned to the Katali leader. "You said Threxel's soul still exists. What did you mean?" The Katali replied with one word: fragments. According to them, when Threxel was defeated, his essence, his will, scattered like ash. But something ancient beneath Virex had caught one of those fragments. It began rebuilding him, piece by piece, using whatever it could find. Human corpses, broken tech, raw energy. Now, Threxel was rising again. Not as a warlord, but as something far worse. As night fell, the Vindicator crew made their stand at an old Terran outpost. Katali scouts reported movement, machines stirring in the deep sand, limbs shifting, old weapon systems awakening. And then he came. Threxel, no longer bound by flesh or metal. His form flickered in the dark like a dying sun. Part machine, part spirit, voice dripping with hatred. "You returned," he said, just in time to kneel. The battle was instant and brutal. Adrian's crew, armed with relic weapons and patched armor, fought alongside Katali warriors under a sky torn by plasma fire. Mira unleashed the fusion cannon, one of the last of its kind. It struck Threxel squarely in the chest. For a moment, silence. Then he screamed, not in pain, but in rage. Threxel shattered into a burst of golden flame, his body torn apart. But Adrian knew it wasn't over. After the battle, they regrouped in the ruins. Mira crouched beside Adrian, who was nursing a burn across his arm. That blast should have killed him. It didn't, Adrian said. We didn't kill him last time either. We just delayed him. The Katali leader joined them, his expression grim. Threxel is bound to something beneath the hollow sun, the energy core of this world. If we don't reach it before he reforms, this planet becomes his throne. Adrian looked up at the night sky, stars barely piercing the dust. We started this. We finish it. And the dunes whispered on. The hollow sun wasn't a myth. It was real, carved into the deepest canyons of Virex Prime like a buried heart, pulsing beneath the sand. The Katali had spoken of it with reverence and dread, a place where light went to die. Now, Adrian Rivas and his crew stood at its edge. Massive stone doors lay half-buried in the dune wall, etched with symbols in both Terran and Drosai script, strange hybrid runes that hinted at something older than either. The sands around the entrance had been scorched black, twisted into glass from some ancient firestorm. This place is a tomb, Miro whispered. Adrian adjusted his helmet. Then let's wake the dead. With a creaking groan, the doors slid open. Heat blasted outward, dry, ancient, and humming with power. They stepped inside. The hollow sun was not natural. It was a megastructure, a vast spherical chamber built into the planet's crust, lined with radiant pylons and glowing energy cores. At its center floated a crystalline engine, slowly spinning, surrounded by suspended platforms and spiraling data conduits. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Solstice's voice came through the comms. This is not a power station. It's a soul forge, a fusion of Terran memory architecture and alien energy cycling. Someone, or something, is trying to build consciousness here. Mira scanned the readouts. I'm getting trace signatures, Drosai biotech, Terran neural maps, and, Adrian, it's using your DNA. He froze. That's impossible. Not if Threxel scanned you when you killed him, Solstice replied grimly. He's replicating, piece by piece. They moved cautiously deeper into the hollow sun, guided by flickering lights and ancient rails. On the walls, projections danced, fragments of Terran history, distorted memories, battles, losses, names long forgotten. It was like walking through a corrupted archive of humanity's collapse. And then the visions changed. Threxel appeared, not in body, but as a projection of burning gold, towering above them, surrounded by tendrils of data and flame. His voice echoed from every direction. You thought you ended me, but death is for the weak. Mira raised her rifle. Adrian stepped forward instead. We ended your empire. Now we'll end your shadow. The image of Threxel tilted its head. You haven't understood. I was never just one being. I was a pattern. I lived in code, in will, in fear. Every scream you left behind when your people fell, every dying signal, they fed me. Suddenly, the hollow sun's core flared. Lights shattered. The platforms trembled. Get back, Adrian yelled. A shockwave tore through the structure. When they came to, Adrian and Mira were separated from the others, stranded on a lower platform. The Katali warriors had vanished into the dark. Above, Solstice's voice flickered with interference. Trap core breached, Threxel manifesting. They didn't wait. The two officers pushed forward into the heart of the forge. The deeper they went, the more unnatural it became. Metal bleeding into stone, data streams flowing like rivers of light. Statues stood along the paths, half-finished humanoids made of sand and wire, their eyes glowing with golden fire. Threxel's trying to build a new army, Mira said. Adrian nodded grimly. From memory alone. At the core, they found it. A throne of light, empty for now. Surrounding it were hundreds of containment pods, each holding echoes of familiar faces, dead crew from the old war, Katali fighters long lost, even Adrian's old mentor, Commander Ilias, face frozen in a digital scream. These aren't clones, Miro whispered. They're recreations. Memories turned to flesh. Adrian clenched his fists. He's trying to become everyone we lost. And then the core lit up. Threxel appeared, not as a projection, but as a physical form, rising from the throne in a cascade of molten gold and black armor. He looked human now, too human, as if he'd borrowed their grief to sculpt himself. "You gave me form," he hissed. "Now watch as I give your extinction meaning." A brutal fight erupted. Adrian and Mira fought with everything they had, plasma rifles scorching the throne room, grenades cracking the floor. Threxel was fast, shifting forms mid-attack, adapting to their strategies. He spoke with their voices. "Myra's, Adrian's, even Ilias's. You led them to ruin. You abandoned Earth. You don't deserve to rise again." But Adrian didn't falter. "I watched my world die. I don't need forgiveness. I need to make sure it never happens again." He activated a pulse charge, overriding the core's defenses. The hollow sun shrieked as the energy destabilized. Mira hurled the fusion spike. It hit Threxel dead center. This time, the explosion ripped him apart. No scream, just silence. As the structure collapsed, Solstice re-established contact. Emergency tethers pulled Adrian and Mira back to the Vindicator as the hollow sun imploded, burying its secrets beneath tons of molten rock. From orbit, the blast looked like a star being born, then snuffed out. The hollow sun was gone, but Adrian knew better. The fire hadn't been extinguished. It had simply moved. Virex Prime was burning. Even from orbit, the Vindicator scanners showed unstable energy signatures across the desert. The fallout of the hollow sun's collapse. What was once a buried relic had become a wound in the planet, glowing like a brand across the dunes. Adrian Rivas stood on the observation deck, watching the red sands twist in unnatural patterns. He hadn't slept since the blast. Threxel was gone, or at least his body was, but something still whispered across the surface. A presence, a will, and it was spreading. Mira joined him, a tablet in hand. Her face was hard. "We found something, out past the Wraith Dunes. The Katali call it the Scar." "Let me guess," Adrian muttered. "It wasn't there yesterday." "No, and it's growing." The Scar was a canyon that didn't belong, jagged, raw, pulsing with heat. Lightning danced along its edges, arcing between stone like synapses firing. As the dropship descended, Adrian, Mira, and a small team of Katali scouts prepared for ground recon. They landed at dusk. The wind screamed. Sand blew like smoke, hiding shapes in the storm. Beneath their boots, the ground cracked with every step. Not natural rock, but vitrified soil. Something had scorched the earth from beneath. "Stay sharp," Adrian ordered. As they moved deeper into the canyon, they found symbols carved into the walls, identical to those from the hollow sun. Only now they were fresh. Lines of fire glowed along the cracks. And then came the sound. A voice, low and resonant, carried by the wind. "You left us." The team froze. Adrian drew his weapon, slowly scanning the ridgeline. "Mira, tell me you heard that." She nodded. Not just heard, felt it. At the center of the Scar, they found the impossible. A monolith, black, smooth, humming with dormant power, stood embedded in the canyon floor. Around it, the sand had turned glassy, and twisted figures were burned into the stone like shadows caught in an explosion. Katali legend called this a voice stone, a device of the ancient Drosai, used to store not data, but will. Consciousness. Command. This one pulsed with golden light. Solstice broke in through comms from orbit. "I've scanned the structure. It's transmitting a resonance pattern across the planet. Not just a signal, an infection. Thought turned into radiation. Memory is a weapon." "Threxel," Adrian said. "What's left of him?" But Mira shook her head. "No, it's not just him." She pointed at the markings. "These are Terran command glyphs, combined with Katali neural pathways. It's like he's merging minds." Adrian stepped closer to the monolith, feeling the hum in his bones. Then it spoke again. "You were supposed to protect us. You failed. Now we remember." Suddenly, the ground convulsed. From the walls of the canyon, forms emerged, humanoid, but fractured, their skin blackened like coal and eyes glowing with golden flame. Not soldiers, not machines, echoes. Each wore a familiar face, dead comrades, fallen allies. Even Adrian's brother, Elias, lost during the Exodus. The Katali fell back, murmuring in fear. Mira raised her weapon. They're not real. They're constructs. But they fought like the real thing. The skirmish was brutal. The echoes moved erratically, flickering, glitching, warping mid-attack. Adrian fought with controlled rage, cutting through memory and illusion. He fired at a copy of Elias and hesitated. That was all it needed. The echo lunged. Only Myra's shot saved him. They pulled back to the dropship, barely making it out as the canyon shook behind them. The monolith cracked, releasing a shockwave that scrambled their sensors and blacked out comms for 30 seconds. When they regained control, Solstice had news. The energy signature has spread. There are now 4 more monoliths, arranged in a planetary grid. They're forming a network. Adrian stared at the map, horror dawning. Threxel's rebuilding his empire, not with armies, with memory, with belief. He's turning this planet into a shrine, and himself into a god. Mira whispered, and we're the fuel. Back aboard the Vindicator, the crew assembled. Morale was fraying. The AI systems were glitching under the psychic interference. And worse, several crew had started hearing voices. Solstice confirmed the worst. They were being mentally infiltrated. It's not infection in the biological sense. It's mnemonic corruption. Our memories are being rewritten. Our dead are speaking in his voice. Adrian stood before them, armor scorched, eyes tired. This is not a war we win with guns alone. We have to strike at the source and destroy the core before the final piece of Threxel's consciousness anchors. How long do we have? Someone asked. Solstice answered. He becomes irreversible in 36 hours. Adrian turned to Mira. Prep the nukes. We're going under the dune vault. She met his gaze. That's a death sentence. Not if we get there first. As the ship set course, Adrian stood alone in the command bay, watching the desert swirl below. The planet was remembering them, and Threxel was listening. Beneath the deepest trench of Virex Prime lay the dune vault, a structure lost to time, encased in glassified bedrock and protected by ancient defense systems. No satellite had ever mapped it. No scout had ever returned from it. But now, Adrian Rivas and his team descended into its hollow core, humanity's last gambit. The Vindicator dropped them just outside the perimeter. The vault was massive, a buried citadel of stone and light, its walls pulsing with golden veins. As they stepped inside, a low hum filled the air, deep, endless, like a planet exhaling. Mira adjusted her sensor visor. He's here. Every signal, every echo, it all converges down there. Adrian checked the warhead charge on his back. Nuclear, tuned to detonate only once his biometric signal ended. One-way trip, he muttered. She nodded. We knew that when we came back. Inside the dune vault, time felt wrong. Hallways stretched longer than they should. Gravity twisted subtly. Memory shimmered on the walls. Moving images of Earth's fall, of Terran fleets burning in orbit, of children playing on shattered soil. It wasn't just illusion. Threxel had built a mausoleum of memory. A digital god, feeding on grief. They passed statues of fallen heroes, some real, some never existed. Mira saw her own face carved in one, but older, worn. It smiled at her. She turned away. They reached the core chamber, a vast hollow, lit by a suspended sphere of fused gold and obsidian. The final seed mind, a fully formed artificial godhead, built from Adrian's memories and Terran loss. And waiting beneath it was Threxel. He was no longer molten or fractured. He was perfect, a golden form, cloaked in robes of fire, his face a fusion of Adrian, Elias, and every fallen soldier of the fleet. Behind him hovered memory ghosts, half-formed constructs, whispering voices in familiar tones. You brought the key, Threxel said. Your death completes me. Adrian stepped forward. You're not a god. You're a graveyard that won't stay buried. Threxel laughed, a sound that made the walls bleed light. I am what you left behind. I am what your species refused to become. Mira raised her rifle. We'll shut you down. He lifted a hand, and the vault answered. Walls cracked open, revealing legions of memory-born. constructs made from archived Terran minds, wearing the uniforms of the fallen. Some weeping, some laughing, all charging. The final battle began. Adrian and Mira fought side by side, cutting down echoes of their past. Each kill hurt. It felt like betrayal, like destroying pieces of what they were fighting for. Solstice, fighting through signal interference from orbit, activated jamming fields. I've destabilized his neural lattice. You have minutes. Go! Adrian broke through the crowd, leaping toward the seed mind. Threxel intercepted him mid-air, slamming him down with inhuman force. You die here, Adrian, he growled, and I rise forever. Adrian's suit cracked. Blood filled his mouth. He smiled. You should have left the past alone. He activated the warhead. A blinding pulse detonated, blasting Threxel back. The vault screamed, walls cracking, light bleeding upward into the sky. But the core remained intact, its energy too stable for one blast. Mira reached the console. There's still a chance, she said, fingers dancing across alien symbols. Solstice patched in. I can overload the Vindicator's reactor from orbit. If we beam it straight into the vault's core, it'll destroy the entire region, Mira said. Adrian looked at her. No survivors? Solstice paused. None. Mira nodded. Do it. Solstice's voice cracked, heavy. Goodbye, Captain. Adrian turned to Mira. One last sunrise. She smiled. Together. The vault erupted in a column of light. From orbit, the Vindicator self-destructed, its reactor beam lancing down into the core of the world. The blast consumed the Dune Vault, the Scar, the memory network, everything Threxel had built. The entire hemisphere of Virex Prime went silent. Golden light dimmed. And finally, peace. Weeks later, a recovery ship from the Katali Confederacy found the wreckage. Among the dust and glass, they found no bodies, only fragments of Terran armor, fused into the stone like fossils. And one last message, burned into a shard of metal. We remember. We chose to fight. We did not die quietly. Back on the far edge of the galaxy, Earth's last colony received the signal. The fleet was gone, but the stars were safe again. And in the silence that followed, a new voice rose, not from memory, but from hope. A beginning.